I'm George Tsopelas. I'm the chairman of McKinsey in Greece and Cyprus. I've been with the firm for 31 years, and I have been privileged to come to this conference for many, many years. Now, let me start by giving you a little bit of the context. You have seen in the program that I will be talking about shipping, but I want to give you a bit of context why I chose this subject. Greece is growing at a little bit more than 2%, 2.1, 2.2, and it will continue to do so in the short term. But that's not enough. This growth is not enough for Greece to restore the lost time, and we need to accelerate. In order to accelerate, we need to do two things. We need to boost investment, and we need to fix the negative trade balance, so net exports. Let me give you a couple of numbers. Today, consumption is 88% of GDP. Investments is 18%, and net exports is -6%. This is very far from the proper economic model of this country, which is to be somewhere between 78 to 80% consumption, 22 to 24% investment, and -2 to 0 net exports. We are very far from that economic model. And to do so, as I said, we need to cover the investment gap and we need to cover the trade balance deficit. Now, I could have come here and discuss about this and that and the other, why we do not have so much investment and what's the problems, etc. But I chose to do something different, to give you a success example. A success example which is represented by the shipping sector. A success example, and I want you to remember two numbers. The one number is that the shipping sector is among the higher growth, and they contribute 14.5 billion to the Greek economy. 14.5 billion. And they also contribute 150,000 jobs. These are the two numbers that I would like us to have in mind. Let me start a bit by saying that there are 5 questions that I would like to address. The first one is that what's the role of shipping in global trade, which is pretty obvious. We'll go through that fast. The role of Greek shipping. Then what is the impact of Greek shipping into the economy? What are additional possibilities for impact? And then what needs to be done to achieve that? A few things that most of them are known. 90% of the global trade is through shipping, 10 to 12 trillion, the total value. 60,000 ships, 11,000 companies, approximately $500 million is the profit pool. And in terms of overall impact, let's remember that it is 20 times cheaper than air and 60 times cheaper than road transport. What you see here is each region for import trade and for export trade, what is the percentage of each region into the total, and then what is the participation of each region to the capacity. So what you see here is that 32% of the global capacity is with the European countries, out of which 2/3 is with Greece. Obviously, Greece has a superior position. We are controlling 20% of the capacity. We are employing 200,000 seafarers. And overall, we are controlling 1/3 of the inflow of crude oil to Europe and 25% of the LNG one. So no need to say much more about the importance. The point here is about the paradox. How come a country so small can command this very big share of thing? But that's something that everybody is expecting. There are, based on the research that we did, there are 6 parameters that have contributed to this record of success. The first one is the maritime experience and the deep and the high quality professionals. The second one is the spirit of entrepreneurship and high risk taking. We know about the commercial acumen of the ship owners, and we know how much they are going after high risk and high return investments. Then we have hands-on leadership, which means that a lot of people are basically managing their own businesses. They are following proven models, both in terms of the asset play as well as the operation of the ships. They are renewing themselves. We have seen several examples of proper succession from the previous to the new generation, and finally, the collaboration with the communities. The impact is assessed along 3 dimensions. The one dimension is the core shipping activities, the other one is the non-shipping activities, and the other one is the societal contributions. Now, if we look a bit, and let's spend a bit of time on that chart, it's a bit complicated, but bear with me, please. On the left-hand side, you see the economic contribution, and on the right-hand side, you see the jobs. The dark blue is the direct impact, and the light blue is the indirect impact. Indirect impact means shipping is creating an ecosystem of players, and the value that is created by that ecosystem is basically this yellow. So we are talking about 12.5 billion of impact from shipping itself. Then we are talking about 1.5 that comes from investments and business creation for non-shipping, but investments in businesses. And then we have the societal contribution for a total of 14.5 billion of economic contribution. And respectively, we are talking about a total of 150,000 jobs, 130 of which are coming from the direct shipping engagement. By the way, Nico, this document can be available for whoever wants to see. It's very important for employment. And I want you to focus here on a couple of numbers, please. Greek shipping is representing 10% of the total private payroll in Greece. That was a number that I have to admit that from the analysis it was a big surprise. 10% of the total private payroll. Also, the other thing I saw with great joy, but also with surprise, that is 3 times more the average in terms of salaries. And salaries that we are talking about 65,000 for the ones that are in the sea and 55,000 for the ones that are in land. So these are really, really important figures for the quality of the employment that is created. Also, this is representing 6% of the total employment for the country, and 47,000 jobs are created directly. And another 80,000, they are created indirectly. So this contribution to employment is really, really important. Now, I know it's a bit small, and I apologize for that, but just bear with me. What you see here is, you remember what I told you before, that the contribution, economic contribution for the non-shipping is 1.5 billion? This is where it comes from. And the biggest part comes from real estate, from hospitality, and from energy. Just to give you a little bit of a sense, in terms of real estate, shipping is responsible for 15% of the transactions in the country. It's responsible for 3 out of the 10 biggest hotel and accommodation companies. It's behind 3 out of the 5 biggest energy players, and it is behind 3 out of the 5 biggest sports clubs. So, and if we look at the societal aspect of the contribution, we are talking about approximately 500 million, the majority of which comes from culture, healthcare, and education. Now, what's next? We have made a lot of bottom-up analysis to understand different opportunities that exist, and we found out that there is another 3 to 4 billion. Remember, 14.5 is the current contribution. We found that there is another 3 to 4 billion additional opportunity for the next 5 to 7 years, maybe 10, which is going to come primarily for the following things. First of all, expanding the seafarer base, which means that to bring in more highly, both seafarers as well as officers into the system through the appropriate development, training, education, and so on and so forth, and specific incentives for them to be in Greece and working with a Greek base. The second one is that Greece needs to make an effort that we have specified what exactly needs to happen, but bottom line is that it needs to be having a bigger share in ship management, not only ship ownership. And then we have the opportunities that are two specific opportunities. Huge opportunity in dry docking, as well as in maritime tech, particularly startups. These are opportunities that can create an additional 3 to 4 billion of gross value added to the Greek economy. Last but not least, in order for that to happen, and in the most simple, plain words that I can describe them, there are a number of to-dos. Number one, partnerships and alliances. They are not doing enough. Partnerships and alliances, because that is going to give further economies of scale and access to innovation. The second one is we have made big progress in terms of succession planning and governance, but there is still a way to go. Next one has to do with the acceleration of the engagement to digital transformation and AI. Then the situation with sustainability and what is happening with the new fuels is something that, for many of the Greek ship owners, is something that still is under thinking, and it needs to clearly accelerate. We need to establish and we need to invest massively in maritime education. As I said before, investments in dry docking capacity, and finally, further elevating the role of the Greek ports. That is pretty much the story. The story of a big contribution, 15 billion almost, 150,000 jobs of a sector that is growing, and I want to bring that as an example of what other sectors can actually do to grow and provide high-quality GVA and high-quality employment for Greece in the years to come. Thank you.